May the whole world enjoy prosperity, happiness, and peace. May the whole world enjoy prosperity, happiness, and peace. Be blessed by the divine.
Sir, we have nearly an hour, sir, because our class is 9 to 11. We have nearly an hour plus.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. So, good morning to every one of you. Nice to see all of you. And anyway, so we are in fifth step as of now, and we have covered physical health, mental wealth, social wealth, and now genetic center. Actually, the purification of genetic center is the right step, the word. And now we need to go to the fifth one. Before we jump to the fifth one, I would like to touch upon few things. Maybe I think I will ask some questions, and if you can just respond it based on that, I will take further. Very simple questions, but how much we have understood in depth. Let's just maybe a recap. No issues. Can I ask a very simple question to all of you? Why I need to purify my genetic center? The means I don't need 10 answers. What is the worst thing it can happen if I don't purify my genetic center? What do you think? What do you think the genetic center, the purification of genetic center, if I don't purify it, the worst thing, what it can happen? Camera, okay. I am not sure whether I can switch on. Let me try. More pain, sin imprints. Sorry, I'm in a veranda of my house. No, I'm in quarantine, self-quarantine.
No, it's in a nice situation, sir. Background is very good. Very natural, very natural. Seeing just the walls, it's very natural way now. Good.
That's right. Good. Cannot achieve divine realization. Okay. Miseries of life will continue. Self-realization will not happen. Rebirth. 5 cardinal sins. My kids will have negative imprints. Wow, I love that. Okay, great, super. It will pass to next generation. Sin imprints will accumulate. Camera. Very nice. It will pass to next
Somebody
generation.
has written, we are not able to come up in life.
We are not able to come up in life. Okay, great. Yes, perfect. And see, the worst thing, I just asked that question, worst thing. It could vary from person to person. Need not be same for all of us. First of all, we will not be able to progress in our life. That's all. We will not be able to progress in our life. Just a second. We should be there. ஒரு half an hour முக்கால் ஆகும் கிளாஸ். So first thing, we will not be able to make any progress in our life because we are the architect of our life. People say that you can change your destiny through wisdom. Now, what is destiny? What is fate? They are all nothing but the total summation of the imprints I have in my genetic center. So 95% of the people live according to the fate, according to the destiny, what is written in the genetic center. When I was born and after my birth also, how much karma I have added through prarabdha karma, all that is accumulated as of now. And that accumulation decides my future life. So if I live according to my fate, I purely go as per my genetic center. Now, if we have to change my destiny, then I need to really purify my genetic center. Without purifying the genetic center, whatever effort I am taking it may not result in the success. So I need to, that's why Maharishi has given parallelly all that. doing meditation, purify the genetic center. Well, I think Kumaresan sir has explained all the points. What are the things which can purify the genetic center? So the purification of genetic center, even taking a tablet for my disease, is also purify the genetic center by superimposition technique, and that cell will start working properly. So all that, Kumaresan sir, you can hear me, right?
Sir, yes, sir. No problem. If any issues, I'll get back to you. It's nice.
Okay, fine, great. So you definitely, whatever we do it, and it is purifying the genetic center. So now, unless I purify my genetic center, I may live according to the fate, according to the destiny. I may not be able to use effectively my wisdom to change as I want in my life. And we should be able to have more control on our life, starting from health to the family relationship, to the finance, to the job, my abilities, my skills, everything. I should have majority of the control in my life. Of course, few things are out of my control. I have no control at all. I really have no idea at all. So now, how we can change the fate, how I can change my destiny purely by working with my genetic center. So those are the techniques. Today you have learned it. How can I purify it? How can I impurify, or how can I make it more dirty, the genetic center? That means whatever the immoral things, giving pain, telling lies, six temperaments, all that negative emotions, disrespecting mother, father, guru, government, and divine worshipping, all that are going to spoil my genetic center. So all that are very, very important. Now, my next question is, when I should purify my genetic center? When should I purify my genetic center? What do you think? Can I switch off the video, or is it distracting, Kumaresan sir? I have sometimes some comment, or
It's okay, but it is your video is actually shaking. I don't know whichever.
oh, okay. That's okay. Fine. Hold on. I will find a best place to sit. Actually, I keep it on my lap. So sorry.
No,
Is that fine?
it's okay.
Okay. So always, all the time, when I think things are going wrong in my life, okay, as early as possible. Very good. All the time, it is continuous process. Very good. Super. All the time, always, every moment, all times. It is a continuous process. When you say that continuous process, how will you purify it? I'm a little bit confused now. Always, all the time. Kajal Gupta have mentioned, and a few others also mentioned. Ayyappan mentioned, Babu mentioned. So how will you do always? Next question. How will you do always? All the moment, every moment. So how will you do it every moment? Excellent. By leading a virtuous life. Super. Being aware, to be in awareness. Excellent. Great. Living in consciousness. Have moral and minimal desires. Great. Super. 5 duties. Excellent. You don't need any more classes. I think all of you are very, very thorough with the Maharishi's concept. Excellent. You all have written. You have all written very correctly. Being in awareness state is the first step. You have to be in Agna. The moment you are in Agna, your frequency is below 14. That means now, whatever my genetic center says, that Ahamya karma says, the combination of Sanjita karma and Prarabdha karma, I will not do it. unless I know that this is the consequence of my action if I choose this, and it will bring me only happiness, so I am going to do it. If you can think in that direction, I'm sure from this moment onwards, if you are in awareness state and you are going to do only that thought, word, action, which will bring me happiness either now or future, then definitely the purification process is started immediately. So actually that is the answer I wanted actually. So not when we have a problem, from this moment onwards, we need to start the practice. And for that, always, of course, you can also do the purification if you have a big challenge in with respect to job, for example. Somebody was telling me actually that I am not able to settle down in any job. So far, I have changed to 4 jobs. He's just a 30-year-old and has been meditating for almost like 12 years now. So his problem is with respect to career, he is not able to settle down in his life. So what is to be done? Maybe he can do some purification with respect to career or with respect to the job, and he has to make some visualization, some auto suggestions, and he has to strengthen that particular thought with respect to profession. Maybe he can do it very well. Suppose if I have a problem with respect to my kid, for example, on any issue, take that particular aspect, rechange all the program, at least in your genetic center, so that let that influence the kid later, not later, parallel. But we need to accept for the first step, means we need to have the complete contentment if you want to influence any other's genetic center. If you are not contented, then you will be pushing them out from you because of the hatred feeling. So that we need to always take care of that. Without that, we will not be able to influence others' GC. So to answer that question, we need to do all the time whenever we are thinking anything, talking something, or doing something. So absolutely it is must to do all the time. But if we have some specific issue, you can take care of that particular problem, and then you can purify the genetic center with respect to that issue also by reworking on it. For example, somebody has a disease, maybe the medicine, and related or corresponding exercise, which will help to improve the physical health. That also we can do it. Okay, good. So we have now seen what are the things to do. Now the third question, if I ask, what is the worst thing which can, worst action which we do to damage my genetic center? The worst thing to damage my genetic center. Kumarajan sir, how will you translate the word kalangam? Kalangapaduttum selgal, the one which is to the genetic center.
I think blemishes, sir.
Blemishes. Okay, blemishes. Okay, fine. So, what do you think the one which can blemish your genetic center to the core, to the worst? That would be the worst damage. Impure thoughts, blemishes. Yeah, okay. By thought pollution, impure thoughts, unfulfilled desires, harming others. Okay. No expectations. No expectations. Okay. Active and no expectation for by doing good deeds and pure thoughts, charity, meditation. Okay. Okay, good. You know, what do you think if I ask you a question? Who could be the father of all sins? We do a lot of sins, right? We don't want to do any sin. Sin is the way we blemish our genetic center. If there is no sin, we don't blemish our genetic center. We don't spoil the genetic center. So who could be the father of all the sins in this world? Who could be the father of all the sins in this world? Ego. Very nice. Ramakrishna, Janvi Jadhav, Hetal Patel. Okay, great. Ego, Hari. Okay, great. Okay, anything else? Thoughts. Okay. Good, very good. Okay, now you illusion, very nice, excellent. See, our thoughts now going outside the box, excellent, very nice. I'm very happy for that. Okay, there is a great poet. That poet has written a poem. and he wrote that the father of all sin is anger. With anger, we do the majority of the sins. And we know that anger, we kill ourselves. There are so many, anger is one letter short of danger. And we have discussed a lot about anger. We know from introspection courses, right? So the anger, because why they said maybe the father of sin is because if I have a bad thought or a negative thought, for example, some of you have written negative thought and all that, right? I may think negatively about someone or something, and then I can take it off. But if I get angry, minimum 3 hours, that has effect on myself. That means it affects the genetic center, it affects my brain, it affects all the biomagnetic circulation, blood circulation, heat circulation, air circulation, and life force circulation. And not only with me, and it spreads outside as well through a chain reaction, clash, reflection, refraction, penetration, interaction. So it is affecting our surrounding or the society as well. So anger, according to that poet, Maharishi has not said like that. That poet has written, the father of all sin is nothing but anger. And you can imagine that anger can separate 2 persons or 2 community or 2 families or 2 countries all over the world, World War I or II, any war. All the war is because of anger between the 2 nations or national leaders and between 2 persons. So it is causing a big damage in our life. So he has written that anger is the father of all the sins. But if I apply Maharishi's concept, the root cause for anger is desire, right? And the root cause for desire is what could be the root cause for desire? Any idea? Before I go to that, what would be the root cause for anger is desire. Because if the desire gets blocked, I get angry. The person who blocks it or the situation which blocks it, I get angry, right? So now, so the reason for anger is desire. And then the root cause for desire, what could be the root cause for desire? Wish is another name for desire. Wish, desire, attachment, want, need, all that are same, referring same. Possessiveness, okay. Lack of self-awareness, being living, okay. Greedy is outcome of anger. Immoral anger is greedy. Habit, okay, great. Okay, Maharishi has already, you people have written the answer. I just went from the back, that's all, instead of going from the front. You already have mentioned it. Maharishi has written, the fundamental root cause for all the evils is ego, I and mine. The ego, the father I, mother is mine. If they are parents, ego, the I and mine, aggressiveness and possessiveness. If they get married together, means I and mine get married together, called ego, then there are 6 children, right? That 6 children are the greedy, anger, too much attachment, immoral sexual passion, and inferiority and superiority complex, and vengeance. So these are the 6 bad temperaments which comes out of ego. Now, if with respect to ego, we have the 6 temperaments, and then we do 5 sins, which Kumaresan sir also has mentioned in his lecture. What are the the highest form of sins, like lies, theft, killing, rape, and cunning. These are the 5 big sins, right? The root cause for those 5 sins are 6 temperaments. The root cause for the 6 temperaments is ego, which is aggressiveness and possessiveness. So I think I have to really appreciate all of you, because in the beginning you mentioned it as ego. When I asked the question, who could be the father of sins? In many ways, according to Maharishi also, that is, Maharishi didn't say father of sins, but he says father, it is the root cause for all evils for us, right? So ego is a fundamental thing. And somebody answered as illusion. That is also right. Illusion is nothing but forgetting ego. The moment I forget, forgetting the divine, the moment I forget divine is everywhere, everything, then I comes to the front. So ego comes in. So illusion is nothing but seeing nothing but forgetting the divinity in everyone, in everything, everywhere. So illusion is also right, but the illusion, ego, the root cause for illusion and ego is imprint. That is the fourth step. Maharishi didn't give us ego as the fourth step or illusion as the fourth step. He gave imprint as a purification of genetic center as the fourth step, because we inherited this from animals, which is over for 800 million years. All those animal imprints are there in my genetic center. Because of that imprint only, I develop ego, I develop illusion, and then I do all the things, sins. So root, finally it comes down to imprints. So we need to continuously, all the time, 24/7, we need to work on our imprints. Purification of genetic center, that is from the awareness state, we need to do it, and also specific to specific issue, you can do it. Now let's jump to the fifth step. So it is not that these 5 steps we have to go one by one. Okay, let me take care of my health for first 2 years, then mental wealth next 2 years, and social wealth, social health for another 1 year, and then the purification I will work for 5 years. Then I will go to the 5th step. Not at all. Maharishi has given everything, and everything is interlinked, and we need to do all the 5 together. But the priority is like that. If I am not physically well, I can't perform mental wealth, or I can't do the social health, or purification of genetic center. So the priority is set. I need to spend more time, more energy on physical health first, and then the mental, and then the social, and then the genetic center. That is how we have to understand, and we have to apply in our life. Okay. So now we need to, let's go to the 5th step, which is the ultimate stage of our life, our ultimate purpose of our birth, which is nothing but divine realization, or self-realization, or mukti, or moksha, or liberation, or enlightenment of consciousness, or perfection. All are leading to the same. I'm sure you all know about that, but still, what should I do with respect to that? Is there anyone in this group who has not attended any of the lectures about how absolute space become everything? Is there anyone in this group? May not be from Qatar. I'm just trying to find out. Is there anybody who doesn't know the divine is nothing but absolute space, and absolute space is the one which become all of us? Is there anyone who doesn't know? Because then my job is easy. If you want me to explain again, I will do it, because the 5th step is nothing about the Brahmanyan. That is the knowledge about the divinity. Is there anyone who? There are few who are outside, and outside our system as well. Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, fine. I understand. Okay, let's start from the basics. Let the learners also, let it be a recap for all of you. No issue at all. Okay, great. Now the 5th step is if I have an iPhone, if I know completely about my iPhone, then only I will make use of it more effectively and more efficiently. Otherwise, I can use as a stone to throw on somebody, or to put it as a luggage, to put it as a weight to keep my papers from flying away. So I may use it I may take it to my bathroom, or all any nonsense I can do with the phone, if I don't know what are the key benefits or key features of my phone, right? Similarly, if I don't know about myself, I may misuse myself and live wrongly. So I have to know about myself. So we spend a lot of time to know about our physical body, mind, and our life force on the first few chapters, right? So we know about ourselves. The next, we did spend some time about the society, about the social health. How can I maintain relationship with the society? We all have to live with the 3 things in the coordination or support of these 3: self, society, and the nature. So there is some nature, supreme power, almighty, God, all that refers to one single power, which is maintaining, managing, executing everything in this universe. That is the fundamental force. The science is also trying to find out that single unified force, which is the cause for the entire universe and living beings. That single force We call that as a God or Almighty, or okay. Now that if I don't understand, or if I don't have perfect knowledge about the God, then I may misuse God. And the God is the one who created me, who created everything. And if I have some knowledge about that, then my life will be very beautiful. As I like, I can make it, because I have to go close to my boss. If I become close to my boss, what I think boss will think and what boss think I will think, we will never have any conflict in my office. Always things are very smooth and harmonious, and everything will be going as good as I wish. Now, this with respect to company boss, but with respect to the entire universe, and Almighty is a supreme boss. And if I can become one with the boss, then whatever I think it will happen, and what is possible only I will think. That is a symptom of great sage or self-realized or divine realized person, right? So now the fifth step is to know about God. Who is God? Where is God? How he is executing everything? And what is my relationship with the God? And how I am supposed to make use of that relationship? Means what I am supposed to do with that knowledge and that divinity. So these 5 questions we need to understand about that. So we will spend maybe whatever time we have, maybe another 20-25 minutes we will spend, and then we will have some question answer for 10-15 minutes. Okay. Yeah, it was not discussed in the past 4 classes. This is the 5th step of divine realization. Okay. Now let's understand who could be the God. Okay. Now we all know that God is there everywhere. So let us identify 4 simple qualifications for God, divine. The 4 qualification. Suppose if you want to identify myself in a mall, and you will tell somebody, if you see Muthu, please let me know. Who is Muthu? How he will look like? Then you will be able to describe about myself. He will be like this, thin, and whatever you have indicators. I don't know. Okay, so you will identify. Similarly, if we can identify 4 indicators, and if somebody can meet those 4 indicators, then we can call him as God. He is the divine power or supreme power or Almighty or the nature, right? So if we have to identify 4 important key qualifications for someone to be divine, then number 1 is God is there everywhere. So we know that God is there everywhere. That means he should be present everywhere. This is number 1 qualification. God should be there everywhere. And if you don't agree, let me know. And now I shared 1 point, 1 qualification. God should be there everywhere. Can you, those who are already attended Brahmagyan, wait for some time to answer. Those who are new to this particular class about divinity, you may think, what could be other qualifications for God? What is a qualification for God? Number 1, God should be there everywhere. Number 2, can you give some qualification? We need 4 qualifications. 1 I told you. There are 3 more qualifications we need. Then we will identify who is God, who can meet all the 4 qualifications, right? So qualifications for divinity, as Kumaresan sir has put it. Yes. He knows everything. Excellent. So let us keep that as a second qualification. God should be there everywhere. God should know everything. This is a second step. Okay, great. Next. Actually, it's hot outside, so yeah, he is there and he will be there. He will always be there. He should be eternal. Okay, great. He should be there eternal. Excellent. Third qualification. And he should have ultimate power. Power energy. So you should have ultimate power or great power. That's what you are saying it, right? Okay, so I think we have got 4 qualifications now. I think more than enough. So 1 is should be there everywhere, right? Should be there everywhere. Should know everything. Should be able to do everything. He should not tell that I can't lift this or I can't do this, I can't do that. No, he should be able to do everything. Great power, supreme power, super power, we say almighty. Almighty means he can do anything, right? So he should be able to do everything. The third one. And the fourth one is he should know everything. So he should be there everywhere. He should know everything. He should be able to do everything. And he is eternal. Because he can't be like our prime minister for 5 years and the next prime minister is based on election. No, God is one. He is always there. Not only now, from the primordial state until the death of the entire universe, he should be the God. Correct. So he should be eternal. Eternal means he should be present all the time. There is no lifetime for him. Nobody can kill that God. That means there is no death for the God. So these are the four qualifications. God should be there everywhere. God should know everything. God should be able to do everything. And God is present always or eternal. There is no death for the divinity. So these are the four key qualifications for God. Now let us all search for God. People look for God, and if we have some doubt about the God, if I have some doubt about physics, we go to a physics professor in a physics department in an university or college, right? If I have some doubt about God, we have to go to the religious leaders. Unfortunately, each religious leader is talking about their own God. And is there a single God or dual God or multiple God? Big confusion is there, right? So unfortunately, we can't get that clarified from the school of religion. So we need to identify ourselves now. So now we have identified four key qualifications for divinity. Let's identify who can meet these qualifications. At least out of four, 3 qualification means 75 marks. Each qualification 25, 4 into 25, 100 marks. So let's do one by one. Is any human being, can any human being be considered as God? How many qualification any human being can meet? Let it be even Maharishi, no problem, or let it be you or me or anyone. So no. Okay, why no? Why Maharishi cannot be called as God? There are many Mahans today in today's world. People treat them as a God, right? With they fall, they touch their feet, and they like Sai Baba. There are so many gods, right? There are so many human beings living as God. Why human being cannot be God? Okay, not eternal. Okay, great. And cannot do everything. Very good. Yeah, sure, cannot do everything. True. So no human being cannot be considered as, because he doesn't meet anything. No human being can meet any qualification. He is not there everywhere. He has a lifetime, and he doesn't know everything, and he can't lift even 100 kg of car. No human being can lift, right, without a crane. So he cannot do everything. So that's definitely no human being can meet any of the qualification of God. Forget all human beings. Any other living creature like elephant, tiger, lion, or dinosaur, whatever, any other living creature can be considered as God. Can it meet these 4 qualifications? Anup, Lakani, you are new. There are a lot of new people, so maybe you can all answer. No. Okay. No. Okay. No. Sure. Great. So because no living things can meet any of the qualification, so totally 0 mark for all living creature. No living creature can be considered as God, right? So closed. Chapter is closed. Now let's come to the earlier days. People used to believe the God, the sun as a God, moon as a God, water as a God, air as a God. All that avatars, right? Can any non-living things can be considered as God, divinity, like sun, moon, air, water, rain, maybe. Can any non-living creature be considered as God? Can it meet any of our qualification? Even 1 qualification can it meet? Absolutely no, correct? So it is not everywhere. Sun is there at one place, moon is there at one place. It's not everywhere. So that also cannot meet. So then who can meet who can be a qualified person for God? No living things, no non-living things. So then we are struck really to find out where is God. If you are looking for Muthu in a mall, now you eliminated whoever is roaming around, they are all not Muthu. Throw it out. Now you are looking for non-living things like a chair, stall, door, ACs, whatever there, they are also not God. Throw it out. Now how can I find who is God in who is Muthu in the mall? You throw everything out. What is remaining? Only the walls of the mall. Throw it out. Take the wall also out. So take everything from this universe. Whatever you see in the universe, living or non-living, neither of them are divine. So throw everything out, and what is remaining is space. The space has air. Air also there only up to some 100 miles from Earth's surface. After that, there is no air also, right? So remove the air also. So then what is there in the space is nothing. That is called absolute space. Sunyam. You can't see anything there. Nothing is there. It is called static state. There is no movement there because there is nothing there to move. So it is called static state, sunyam, and dark because there is no light. Light means there is a movement. Dark means there is no movement. So it is completely dark. You know, in worshipping places, in some of the temples, you might have seen it. The real where God is there, it's a complete dark room. There is no light there, right? You can't see anything physically because absolute space is the divinity. Absolute space is the Almighty, is the power. You don't come to conclusion 100%. You keep that as assumption now because it meets all the four qualifications. Absolute space is there everywhere. There is no place where space is not there. Between me and this computer, if I use a vacuum blower to suck all the air also, what I speak you can't hear, but there is a space in between. And the space can never be taken out. You take an atom, if you take an atom, it has electron, proton, neutron. There are 50 different kinds of subatomic particle in an atom. And you know the space occupied by the electron, proton, neutron, all the subatomic particle is not even 10%. No, it is means the space occupied by atom, electron, proton, neutron in an atom is 0.0000000. That is 9 zeros. You put it and then you put 1. That is a space occupied by electron, proton, neutron. So the empty space within an atom is 99.9999. You have to put 9 nines. So that is empty space available in an atom, and everything is made up of atom. So if you take myself, it is made up of atoms, and every atom has 99.999999% space, empty space. Almost absolute space is occupied everywhere. So space is there everywhere. Number one, space should be able to do everything. Can it do everything? Now, how moon is floating around, how sun is floating around, how earth is floating around, millions of stars are floating around, galaxy is floating around. Who is holding it? There is no crane. The space is holding it. The holding power of space is enormous because millions and millions of stars are held by the space, not by any other mechanism. So the holding power is so great for the space, it is holding it. The science has totally forgotten it. The science focused on objects, the masses, the earth, the sun, moon, stars, and all that. They forget the one which is holding those masses, and that is where Maharishi is great. He started from the space, not from the masses. The effect of mass on space is studied by scientists. The effect of space on mass is studied by Maharishi. Total 180-degree reverse, something great. Okay, and without going to any school or college or properly studying science or physics in a college and Maharishi's qualification or educational thing, That is the power of meditation. The more lesser is your mind frequency, you know all the secrets of universe, right? So now, coming back to our point. So the space can hold everything. So it has enormous power. Not only holding Earth, Moon, Sun, and all that. Who is spinning around it? The Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles per hour speed. Who is rotating? Somebody has to, for a motor to pump water from here to my first floor room, there is a motor required. There is an electricity required. Then only water will pump from here to the top floor. Otherwise, water may not go. But whereas,
Hello. I think it got stuck. He has to log in maybe. Hello. Okay. We'll wait for him to come back.
Yeah, I think got disconnected. Huh? I'll try again.
Yeah, I will try it. Oh, okay. He'll log in again. Okay, sir. Unmute, please. Yes.
yeah, okay, fine. So I think I will close my mobile phone. That was also on. Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir. No problem. Good.
Sir, you tell me when I have to stop it. Okay.
Maybe another 15 minutes.
Another 15 minutes. Okay, fine, great. So let's go. Okay, fine. So the space has not only holding power and also the activating power or energizing power or spinning, the rotation, the momentum as well. It is given by the space. So first qualification, space is everywhere. Second qualification, space has enormous power, not only hold it and even spinning it. Second one. The third one, space is there ever present. It has no life because we know physics in according to law of thermodynamics. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Now the space, the distance between me and the computer or the mic or the camera, nobody can destroy the space. It will be there. You can suck the air out, you can take everything out, but the space will be there. Nobody can destroy it. You can convert the energy from one form to another form. So space is eternal. Nobody can destroy the space. So the three qualifications also it met. Only the fourth qualification is space or the God should know everything. Whether the space knows everything. This is a challenging question now. To look like doesn't look like it is. It doesn't have knowledge at all because space is just a space. Muthu has some intelligence. We all have some intelligence. Even I can accept the phone has some intelligence because it has some software built in. If I press some number, display is there. So it has some intelligence. How space can have some intelligence? So we can't believe that statement that space has intelligence, and that is a main important qualification for God. Whether he has power or not is useless unless he doesn't have an intelligence. If doesn't have an intelligence, he is not at all fit to be qualified for divine because he should know what he should do it, right? So the most important qualification is the consciousness or the intelligence of the divinity. If it doesn't have it, it is a serious. Definitely, we can't call space as divine. Okay, so now if you think whether intelligence is there for the space or not, first we need to understand one simple thing. I believe I have intelligence. How can I prove it to you? If scientists cut my body, can anywhere they can identify, Muthu's consciousness is here. This is the intelligence part of Muthu. Can anyone recognize, identify, scrutinize, separate it, and do something about that intelligence part? Not at all. Because intelligence is also has no form. There is no physical form. There is no shape for it. You can't physically see intelligence in anywhere. Intelligence is like God. It's a hidden. It's imperceptible. Means I can't see it. We can't see intelligence. We can't see God also. There are many hidden things in this world, right? And one is God. You can't see the God. You can't see electricity, in fact. You can feel the electricity, but you can't see the electricity. Current is flowing, I know. I can't see the movement of current because it is beyond the perception of my eyes. Eyes have some limitation in seeing it, not only seeing it. Even electronic machines cannot see few things, right? Though they can identify electron, but not subatomic particle, right? To some extent, they are successful. So we can't see even electricity. So how can we see the God, right? So the intelligence also, Kumaresan sir, arubam. What is in English? Arubam.
One which we cannot see.
We can't see it. It has no physical form, right? We can't see it. So the God also we can't see it. Intelligence also we can't see it. Now, is there anything can be two different objects which can mean the same thing? For example, there is a darkness. There is a darkness in your house and darkness in my house. Can it be different or it should be one? Darkness is one. Everywhere it is one. Whether it is in my home or in your home. So the darkness, whether in my room or even in your room, it is same because the quality is same. Similarly, divine is, you can't see the divinity and you can't see the intelligence. So both should be same. So that is why people say divine is consciousness. Consciousness is divine. There is another name for divine is consciousness. Aham Brahmasmi. Brahmam Prakyanam. Brahmam Prakyanam. That means consciousness is divine. The meaning of the word Brahmam Prakyanam. Jnanam means consciousness. Brahmam means divine. So divine is consciousness or consciousness is divine. So there is no two different entity which with the same property but two different. It is not possible. So divine has intelligence. This is one way of understanding that the space has intelligence, but that's not the ultimate one. Let me come back to the second one. Now we know egg. The egg, if you see the egg, and if I ask egg has intelligence, so sorry, how egg can have intelligence? Egg doesn't have intelligence. This is what we will tell it. But if the same egg is hatched by a hen, it produces another chicken. Why it has to produce chicken? Why not elephant? Why not a human baby there? Why not an ant there? Or why not a fly there? Why always chicken comes out of egg? Because egg has intelligence. And that intelligence knows, that egg knows, I have to produce only chicken, not elephants. And where from it got that intelligence to make eyes, ears, fly, wings, all that, which so that it can be called as chicken. So it has intelligence. And egg is very small. Where from it got the energy to make that chicken? Chicken has, all the eyes and everything formed. Not only consciousness, it needs energy also. Who gave the energy to egg to make this much chicken? It's amazing, right? The hen which hatched the egg did not give. It touched it. That's it. It just needs a touch. The egg needs a touch. Some heat is required for the egg to hatch. That's all. The mother is producing that heat. It doesn't give any energy there. But where from the egg got the energy? The consciousness, egg has a consciousness because it is producing a chicken, not elephant. No doubt of that. The egg, 99.999999% absolute space is there. Absolute space has enormous energy. We saw it. Holding power, spinning power. Already egg is connected to the absolute space. Whatever energy it is required, it can take it. And it can not only make chicken, it can make an elephant also if it is required, right? If that is called mutation. The divinity has another ability called mutation, which we will learn it on the coming Friday class. So now the egg doesn't look like it has intelligence, but it has intelligence because it is producing chicken only. So it has consciousness. Without consciousness, egg cannot become a chicken. So what we need to understand here, the space has consciousness, the space has intelligence. If the space has intelligence, the one which came from the space also should have intelligence. So we all have intelligence because we all evolved from the space. Okay, so keep that with this understanding. At the end of the session, tomorrow's next Friday session, you will come to a conclusion. Yes, absolutely, space has consciousness. Okay, because now how Maharishi has evolved this theory of self-transformation is he assumed absolute space as the divine. Then he gives a logic how the absolute space became the universe and all the living things. The moment you understand all the logical sequence, and it doesn't conflict with any scientific theory so far, like Darwin's theory, and it all matches with all the scientific laws like law of thermodynamics, law of energy. You take any laws, it doesn't conflict, and it matches with Einstein's theory, everything, right? In that case, your assumption is right because your conclusion is matching with the reality. So the once your conclusion is matching with the reality, your assumption is right. Assumption is God equal to absolute space. So now God is equal to absolute space. We understood three qualifications, easily understood. Only one qualification, which is it has consciousness. I just tried to explain you. It has consciousness because consciousness, you can't physically see it. You can't look for consciousness in an egg, number one. Number two, if egg doesn't have consciousness, it can produce an elephant, but it produces only chicken. So it has a consciousness. If you take earth, earth has a consciousness because earth revolves every 24 hours, one self-rotation. Why not 25 hours it will take? Why not 23 hours it takes? If it takes not 1 hour late or 1 hour fast, even if it take 30 seconds delayed or 30 seconds fast in one day, earth will collide with some other planet very soon. No more earth will be available. As long as it maintains the correct speed, no issue. So then it should have a consciousness. We all have consciousness and we talk nonsense sometimes. 1 minute at 7 o'clock we were talking so nicely to wife. At 7:05 I was upset with the wife. What consciousness this is? It's varying. Whereas earth, fixed consciousness, always it revolves and rotates exactly at 24 hours, coming back to the same place, same precision, and also revolves around the sun in 365 days, 365.25 days, comes back to the same position. Doesn't. A small variation is there, and that they calculate as leap year every 4 years, that is compensated. So earth has a consciousness. But who is spinning around that earth, making it rotation? Space, right? So space has consciousness. This is what I am trying to convince you. So now, who meets all the qualification for a divine? Space, absolute space. It is there everywhere. It is ever present. Nobody can destroy it, and it has enormous energy. And it knows everything because everything is controlled by space. We all are floating on the space. Earth is floating on the space, right? So this fourth point, you will understand it slowly. There is a separate lesson, actually. You will learn it in introspection. Why consciousness is called as divine. There is 1 hour lecture for it, actually. Then you will understand for sure very well. Yes, it has a consciousness, but in coming Friday class also, you will understand. So now, so far, we have come to a conclusion that absolute space could be a potential candidate to be considered as divinity. Not 100%, because we have to see how absolute space became the universe and all living creatures. And if that logic sequence is matching with today's theory of laws, scientific laws, then we can definitely conclude, yes, it is the God. As of now, it is a very great potential candidate to be considered as divinity because it meets three qualifications: 100%, consciousness, maybe, may not be, but to 75% it meets the qualification, right? So out of 100, maybe 85 marks or 90 marks, it is meeting. Now we need to now proceed further, how the absolute space become everything, right? How the universe is evolved, how living things are evolved.